Wow guys, what a weekend of racing. So much drama, so many talking points, whether you're a Max fan or a Lewis fan, or like me, a Ferrari fan, you can't help but be entertained.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I'm sure there were some parts you might have been unhappy with, some parts you might have really enjoyed, but what can I say? Brazil never disappoints, never fails to disappoint. The fans were amazing, the atmosphere was amazing, the circuit's amazing, the racing was amazing. I mean, there isn't much more you could have asked for. Well, unless you're a Max fan or a McLaren fan. But let's get into it.
It's lights out and away we go. Bottas gets away well ahead of Verstappen, but Verstappen is coming back at it. Verstappen takes the lead. He squeezed out Valtteri Bottas going through turn two. Hamilton, against the odds, has come home to win the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. What a victory for Lewis Hamilton. He's not ready to loosen his grip on that championship trophy. Not just yet.
It was a sprint weekend, and in the build up to the weekend I was definitely looking forward to this one. Brazil is absolutely one of my favourite circuits on the calendar, and it's probably top 3 circuits that F1 go to. Argue with yourselves in the comments. But we had qualifying for the sprint, and I think from FP1, after hearing Lewis would take a fresh engine and then seeing his performance in FP1, I knew no matter where he was on the grid he could take a win. What I wasn't foreseeing was his car failing one of the scrutineering tests. And if you were like me, you were up until stupid hours of the night waiting for an announcement, only for it to be announced that a decision would be made the following day. Then we had images of Max touching the wing too. So much drama going around, but surely Max touching the wing could not have damaged the wing to make it fail a test. Just to touch on the disqualification that Lewis was given, with these tests, if your car doesn't pass, it's pretty much a slam dunk penalty. Toto was really riled up about it, as he says that the wing was damaged, which is why it failed. Fair enough. Well, I'm afraid, Toto, if it fails a test, it fails a test. In comparison to Red Bull, which again Toto was super mad about, their wing passes all the tests, so with permission from the FIA, they're allowed to reinforce their wing on the grounds of safety, as long as it is the same spec wing in parc fermé condition. Out of the way, we can get onto the sprint. It was Valtteri Bottas on the softs in P2, a strategic decision from Mercedes, and he took the lead of the sprint and didn't look back. Carlos Sainz was also on the softs and managed to get his Ferrari into P3 just behind Max. Lewis, who started from the back in his rocket ship, managed to go from last to 5th by the end of the 24 laps, pulling off some good overtakes with the help of his DRS and that fresh engine. Talking of the engine, if you listen to the other Mercedes engine runners and then you listen to Lewis's engine, you can hear that it's on a much higher setting, providing him with all the horses he needs under his right foot. Now for the main event. My pre-race predictions was that Lewis would definitely win this race. It was just about how the Red Bulls played it, as it was clear that Lewis had been the fastest man on the circuit all weekend. Right at the start, we had Max taking the lead into turn 1, and then Sergio Perez passing Valtteri Bottas into turn 4, making it a Red Bull 1-2. Lando Norris, who actually had a good sprint, got the jump on Sainz at the start, but came over just a bit too early and got a puncture, dropping him to last place. By lap 5, Bottas had been given his orders and let Lewis by to launch his assault on the Red Bulls. Now, we usually do have safety cars in Brazil, but it only took 6 laps for a safety car after an incident between Stroll and Tsunoda. The irony that it was a Red Bull car that causes a safety car and bunches up the field. The Red Bulls had to be very wise with the restart, not wanting to get caught out down the straight with the advantage that Lewis had. The restart was actually played pretty well and the racing resumed. I'm quite loving the Perez and Hamilton battles. It's really good to watch, and this is the racing we all want to see. Lewis passing Perez into turn 1 and Perez fighting back into turn 4. Great racing from both. Lewis did eventually get past though and went on to close the gap to Verstappen. I wasn't really sure what would happen with strategy, especially after having the virtual and full safety car, but Lewis and Mercedes pitted first, going for the undercut, which of course forced Red Bull and Max to respond the next lap. I can't lie to you, even as a neutral to these two, it was so tense. Lewis was catching in the first and last sector while Max was using his advantage in the middle sector to make sure Lewis couldn't get close up that long run up the hill. At first I thought Lewis would get him easily, but Max seemed to be driving really well under pressure and the gap would stay about between 8 tenths to about 1.3 seconds the whole stint. I can't lie, at this point the race director could have stuck with them the whole race, it was that tense. After their second stops again, with Max coming in first this time and Lewis coming in 3 laps later, it was back to the same intensity. Then we had the fireworks. We had Lewis attempting to get past in turn 4, and Max braking late on the inside with both cars running wide and off the track. None of them made the apex, and Max on the inside definitely didn't make the apex. Now I'm going to state my opinion, unpopular or not, it doesn't really bother me, to be honest. No one wants to see a championship decided in the stewards room. Whether you're a Max fan or a Lewis fan, you don't want your championship decided in the stewards room. You want to see it decided on track. They both made it through, they continued, they didn't touch, so let them race. And Lewis eventually got past anyway, such was his pace this weekend. If you're a Lewis fan, you got through, so to still call for a penalty seems a bit, meh. And if you're a Max fan, Max defended as he usually does, which is very tough, races hard. It was borderline, no one got hurt, and you both came out of it fine. So we can all move on. Let's just let them race in this instance. I think there's a bit of outrage with the stewards not investigating and whatnot, and still a bit of controversy with no onboard footage from Max's steering wheel. But we've been crying all season that we want to see these guys race. The stewards get involved a bit too much sometimes, and we've seen penalties given where penalties shouldn't have been given. So again, there's an issue of consistency with the stewards, and a lot of criticism for Michael Massey that I've seen online. To be honest, let's just let them race, guys. We don't want the championship decided in the stewards room because it's going to cause even more outrage. So letting them race, I think, was a good call. We then had Toto telling Valtteri to go get him as in Max, which I just laughed at because he's clearly not on these two's level. He did take advantage of the virtual safety car to make a free pit stop and jump ahead of Sergio Perez, but he seemed to be a bit upset with Mercedes, saying that they threw away an easy 1-2. To be fair, Valtteri, I don't think you were really on Lewis's level. I mean, you definitely didn't have the engine Lewis had, and you definitely wasn't on Max's level. So to get P3 ahead of Sergio Perez was probably the maximum that you could have achieved. So Lewis came home to take the win with Verstappen in P2, Bottas in P3, Red Bull pitting Sergio Perez on the lap 70, I believe, to take the fastest lap and get a point for Red Bull. In the second really hot battle this year is Ferrari versus McLaren, and Ferrari really took a big step in cementing third place in the constructors, finishing 5th and 6th, while at McLaren, Norris, who had the puncture early in the race, finished in 10th, and Ricciardo retired with a power unit issue. That means Ferrari are now 18 points clear, which, with 3 races to go, 2 circuits that we're not really sure about how the cars will perform, it's a really, really big step for Ferrari, especially with the season that they had last year. A lot of fans were really questioning Carlos Sainz on his decision to join Ferrari after the season that they had, but it seems to be the right decision, and I'm pretty sure that next year Ferrari are going to come good. Cementing third place in this championship after being, I think, 5th or 6th in the constructors last year is a really big step for the boys in red. Charles Leclerc has been putting in some solid performances of late and has really been performing at a very, very high level, maximising everything he can get out of that car. Honestly, if he was in a car that was as quick as the Mercedes or the Red Bull, he would definitely be in this championship fight. As I said in my last video, I'm really a big fan of Pierre Gasly now. I think I've officially joined the Pierre Gasly fan club, and it was a really solid performance from Pierre Gasly once again. His sprint didn't go as well as it could have, but in the main race he came home to finish P7, overtaking both Alpines, who also had some strong pace this weekend in Brazil. Gasly once again carrying the AlphaTauri teams, as they are still level on points with Alpine in the constructors. So it was a real statement win from Lewis after the adversity he faced over the weekend. I must say, with the support he received in Brazil, it was almost like a home race for him. You could really feel the support for Lewis, and when he feels that support, he really does deliver. We've seen it in Silverstone many times, and now Brazil. We know that Senna is his idol, and he does definitely feel that love from Brazil now. So what does this mean for the championship then? Verstappen keeps his championship lead by 14 points off Hamilton with 3 races to go. And in the constructors, Mercedes lead by 11 points, with Ferrari also leading McLaren by 18 points. Next weekend is the final part of the triple header and a new circuit for Formula 1, Qatar. The circuit doesn't look like it has many opportunities for overtaking, so fingers crossed it is a good show.
So there we have it, another video. Thank you for watching. Qatar up next weekend. If you think I left anything out, leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you again in another video.